This is Breighlynn Polk interviewing Ms. Lackisha Freeman for the HBCU Radio Preservation Project. It is currently 2:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, July 11th, 2024. This interview is being recorded in Ferris Newton Hall in Durham, North Carolina. Can you first start off by stating your full name and your relationship to WNCU?
My full name is Lackisha Freeman. I am the General Manager of WNCU 90.7 FM, broadcasting from the campus of North Carolina Central University.
Thank you so much. So first we want to get a little bit into your early life before you got involved here at WNCU. Can you first tell me when, if you are comfortable, and where you were born and about the people who raised you?
I was born in, what was the name of that hospital? I think it was in Ahoskie, North Carolina was where I was born, but I was raised in Northampton County in a little town called Seaboard, and that is located in North Carolina as well.
So you were pretty much in North Carolina for most of your life?
All of my life.
Okay, so how was that growing up? What, I guess, region of the state is that in?
It's northeastern from here. It's a rural area. I basically landed here in Durham. I came to go to college here at North Carolina Central University when I graduated from high school, and started here at North Carolina Central in August of 1995 and got my bachelor's here and graduated in 1999, May of 1999, and went on to law school here. Around about when I was a sophomore was when I decided that I wanted to go to law school. It was watching African American shows like The Cosby Show, and the character Claire Huxtable was one of my inspirations of wanting to go to law school, and kind of the way that she ran her home and being a mother and being a wife and being a lawyer, and that was something I think that, or at least even though it was a television show, but just it kind of inspired me to go on and eventually want to become a lawyer. And I graduated from law school in 2002. Wow, it's been 22 years.
Mm-hmm. Time flies.
It really does. I guess when you're having fun in life, it really does fly. It does not seem like it's been that long, but here we are.
Well, thank you for that. So before you came to North Carolina Central, how was your childhood life growing up in that area of North Carolina?
It was great. I wouldn't say that I had challenges. Growing up, good grades in school. My father rewarded that. I did not. He rewarded that by, we worked hard. My father owned 2 businesses, and I worked as, kind of his administrative assistant, or back then they were called secretaries. And I think that's where I kind of got my start with firsthand and getting that practical experience with running a business or business operations. I remember he would always say, even with writing the checks, it was, this is my secretary, she's going to fill out the check, and he would just sign it, and then we would pay, whoever the vendor was that he was paying. Typing out his bills for the work that he'd done. He owned a construction business, and typing those up and mailing those out, that was part of my task as well, through my high school years. I remember even when I was in college, when I came back home for the summer, that was my job. For the summer, I worked for my dad's business, and it wasn't probably until law school and eventually working full time that I kind of stepped away from that, or maybe I would do that kind of work on the weekends.
And your mom, was she also a part of that business as well, or did she do something outside of that?
No, my mother worked in the school system. She was an administrator in the school system, and that was the fun part of it too. Being at school all the time, with school activities, if it was games or, sports at the school, then going to those type of events. And then in return, they also supported me as well. I played basketball from middle school throughout high school. Graduated in the top 10 of my class in my high school. It was, it was just really great. I mean, I don't have too many bad memories, to be honest, in my childhood, which is certainly not a bad thing. But a great time growing up in a rural area, a small town where many people knew everybody, if not related to each other. So it was very close knit, and truly, I grew up during a time where people helped each other, with raising their kids. So like if your child was down the street doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, that parent was going to take care of it and notify your parent that they maybe let you know that wasn't something you were supposed to be doing. And then I think just the respect of each other. I mean, I don't think parents got upset because somebody else disciplined their child back during that time. Today they might say, "Don't say anything to my child," but it was a great time growing up. It was very close knit where I lived because all of my cousins, well, not all, but many of my cousins lived right in the same proximity. So not only were we family, but we grew up together, like playing even as friends and all that kind of stuff as well. So, so many great things that I remember as a child growing up and being exposed to so much. I remember both of my grandparents, maternal and paternal, had gardens. So we didn't do a whole lot other than maybe playing in the garden sometimes, but it was just the mere fact that, we could go out and get a watermelon or, pick some tomatoes or get some cucumbers fresh out the garden. So fun memories.
Yeah, and it seems like y'all had that aspect of like a village. It took a village to basically, not only raise you, but everybody else in the community.
Certainly.
So speaking of that, I know you say you had a lot of family in your community. What did your community look like demographic-wise? Was it majority like African-American or was it mixed?
Majority African-American in the town that I grew up in. My high school was probably about 50-50 as far as the demographics of black to white, but but definitely where I was raised, it was majority African-Americans.
Gotcha. And do you mind me asking your parents' name?
I don't. My dad's name is Sylvester Seitz. My mother's name is Breighlynn Harris Seitz.
Gotcha. And were they also from the region of North Carolina where you were born and raised?
Yeah, I think they met, I don't know if it was in high school or something like that. And then eventually got married, had my brother shortly after high school, graduating from high school. And then 4 years later I came along.
Okay, so it seems like your family roots are mostly in North Carolina for the most part.
Mostly, yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that with me. So what schools did you attend? I know you said that you were in the top 10 of your high school. Do you remember the name of it?
That was, it was called Northampton County East. There were two high schools, one on the eastern end of the county and one on the western end of the county. And I graduated from Northampton County School East. Now they have since then merged both of those high schools in the county, and so it's just one Northampton County High School, I believe, now.
Okay, so I'm sure that you say you excelled in all subjects, but did you have a particular subject that was like your favorite, or were you just like an all well-rounded student? I
would say yes, well-rounded student, but I really enjoyed math, science as well. And probably in depth of understanding of words that maybe I would not otherwise have.
Yeah, I think that is important, especially in this day and age. They don't teach vocabulary and spelling anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like some people feel like they run out of words because they don't know other words to use. So
that's why reading is so important. I mean, if nothing else, you can pick things up from just conceptualizing things from what you've read or something like that. So it is so important to read, especially when they don't have those kind of things like those spelling tests or vocabulary quizzes. So absolutely. I'm grateful for Mr. Cox.
Absolutely. So was there any type of music interest that you developed as a kid or anything that you
I loved all genres of music. All genres of music. in my home, we listen to everything. But as we fast forward to me obviously working for a jazz radio station, that wasn't like one of the top genres that I grew up listening to. I really grew an appreciation for jazz music when I was introduced to it when I started working here as a law student the summer of 2000. And that's where I was introduced to the music. I think the very first jazz artist that I met after working here for a few weeks was Nina Freeland, who still lives here in Durham, and her family is here as well. So it was one of the first people that I met, and I was like, wow, like I met a superstar, Nina Freeland, and just that name alone, I was like, man, she's amazing, and has since to go on and have many Grammy nominations. So such a pleasure, and what a wonderful memory.
Absolutely. Now, was there any memories that you had of radio coming up as a kid, like any particular stations or anything?
Yes. I mean, we listened to the radio in the house, but I think one memory that stands out a little bit more than, just my typical listening, or my brother, just traditionally listening to music in the home via the radio. But it would be if we happened to stay over my grandmother's house, and every Sunday morning she had it on that AM station playing that old traditional gospel music. And it was just something that just resonates and is so nostalgic now, because we play traditional gospel music here on 90.7 FM WNCU on Sunday mornings. And when I listen to that each and every Sunday, it is such a reminder of those great memories and times that we spent with my maternal grandmother and grandfather in their home on Sunday mornings sometimes. And just waking up, she's cooking breakfast and that music is playing. Like, that's what we woke up to hearing, that AM station. And it probably was some local pastor that was hosting the show as well. So I would say that's one of my most memorable radio experiences growing up as a child, and one that stood out a little bit more than others, and really means a lot to me, holding on to the value of that. And I think the gospel music in general, and the life lessons sometimes that gospel music instills in you and embeds in you. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, it's you saying that just kind of makes me feel like we all live the same lives, because my grandmother was the same way.
Like
every
Sunday morning. Yep, it was AM radio, and I don't listen to AM radio today. But again, that memorable radio moment was certainly those Sunday mornings.
So then that means that you grew up religious and all, or was that just something that you got from like your grandparents?
So I mean, we did go to church somewhere on Sunday. I think our church was it wasn't church every Sunday, but then you would go and find another church to go to. So it may have been my grandmother's church, because I mean, there were, in the small rural area, there were still churches everywhere. So there was always a door open. But my home church, it was every other Sunday. I think it was second and fourth Sundays was when we had service. But yeah, we were always at church. My mother was going to see to it. We were at Sunday school as well. That was every Sunday. If you just went to Sunday school and then came home, or you go to Sunday school and then, there was a little break and then Sunday service would start. So, yeah, I was certainly exposed and brought up in the church.
And what denomination was that?
Baptist coming up, but since then non-denominational, but Christian.
Yeah, thank you. So you lived in, can you remind me of the hometown that you said you lived in?
Seaboard,
North Carolina, up until around, you say 94 is when you came to Central?
Yeah, 95. So yep, I graduated high school in June of 95 and started here at North Carolina Central University I graduated in June, came to school in August of 1995.
So how was that decision-making process for you deciding to come to Central?
I came to visit campus. I visited a couple of other universities, um, and there was something about the family environment where I really felt like when I came here to visit Central, the campus, it just really felt welcoming. The faculty really made it feel like they were welcoming us, and I felt like I was going to be coming to a place that was I really could consider to be home away from home. I think my parents felt like they knew that I would be taken care of and looked out for, even coming here from a small town to an area like Durham, North Carolina. So, um, like I said, it just really felt like home. It really felt like when I arrived to Eagle Land, it was a true welcome to the nest.
Absolutely. So, did you have any idea of what you wanted to major in before you got here, or was it a decision that you made after being here for an extended amount of time?
So I think during that time I thought that I wanted to go on to go to law school because yeah, I had already determined that before coming. Um, right, because I think that summer before I came, I spent some time an intern with a judge back home that I knew. So yes, I did know that before I came. I majored in criminal justice when I was here. I didn't know too much about. I think Central had something similar to like a pre-law program, but it wasn't. Oh, maybe it didn't come until later. I don't remember, but I took criminal justice because I saw a lot of the courses. Like they had a criminal law course, they had a civil law course that was taught by some professors over there at the law school as well, and so that was the reason why I chose to major in criminal justice at the time. It was more from looking at the law aspect of and studying law at that time.
So, is that something else that kind of made NCCU attracted to you, that they had a law school as well? I know you said growing up you seen the Huxtables and seen her be a lawyer. Or...
I was not committed to going to NCCU's law school at the time. There were some, by the time graduating from undergrad, or actually maybe a little bit before, obviously, I would have had to have submitted my applications, but there was acceptance from a few, Campbell, Rutgers, here. And I only applied to, I think, four law schools, or maybe just those three. No, it was, right, because I think it was just three. Campbell, Rutgers, and when I was a sophomore in undergrad, because I had kind of begun to think maybe I should start working at the school since it's right here on campus, and learn a little bit more about, or whatever I can, about just being around lawyers and working with them firsthand. And so I went to the community service office here on campus, and I was assigned to work with Irving Joyner. And at the time, he was doing some work with just going to speak to our athletes here on campus about, what to do if you're stopped. How should you respond if you find yourself in an incident you're with your friends and you get stopped by the police? What should you do? What should you not do? To make sure that they were at least well informed and that they knew their rights. And I think the name of his program that he had was Know Your Rights series, or something to that effect. And he would do a series of those throughout the year to go speak to the young athletes here on the campus of NCCU. And so he would start to take me along to those type of things. And he had many connections with politicians, judges, obviously, with him being a very notable civil rights attorney that we are just so blessed to have as part of our law school here at NCCU. But sometimes even having the opportunity to go to galas, and I would get a chance to tag along to go be a part of those events with him. That was a great time, a great introduction. Probably one of the things that really won me over with obviously making the ultimate decision to come to NCCU, and the fact that I was also a Thurgood Marshall Scholar. and got that scholarship at the law school as well. I think that was what kind of sealed it for me, with having that additional scholarship to support my matriculation through law school.
Absolutely. So, what was your college experience like outside of, you, I'm sure being a studious student with being top 10 in your class? I'm sure that was kind of like a priority, maybe a little bit.
I mean, oh God. I mean, I studied, but college wasn't that difficult. I would say probably the most challenging academic experience I had was law school, to be honest. But undergrad was pretty much an ease for me. I mean, I had to study, yes, but it wasn't like I was. I didn't have to burn the midnight oil too much, unless it was because of my own procrastination. That was probably the only reason, but pretty much laid back experience. I went home a lot. I'd be here during the week, and I would go home, if not every week, every other week. I was back home. And especially, I think I brought my car to campus my sophomore year. And yeah, I used to just go back home.
Now, how far is home from Durham?
I think driving from here was about an hour 45, 2 hours, something like that.
So you can do that in no time.
Yeah, it was no time. I mean, and yeah, when you're young, you really can do that. And it didn't matter. Nighttime, you didn't have to worry about, the vision aspect and being able to see in the dark and all that kind of stuff. Back then, we used to just get on the road and ride, and come on back to school and get ready. Like, I would come back Sunday and go to class Monday.
So was there any type of campus organizations or activities that you were involved in? Or?
Oh, God, I don't remember. I remember I had a couple of internships. I did community service. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm asking you like almost 30 years ago of history, so.
No. Yeah, that's a long time ago. Wow. I was involved in events. I mean, in organizations. I remember it was something in the criminal justice. I think it was the, what do you call it? Criminal justice and, oh God, I don't know the name of it. Mm-hmm. I cannot remember. So I apologize for that. But I was involved in a few organizations that I just can't recall.
Yeah. No problem. Like you said, it is about 30 years ago, so it may not be to your your recollection that easily, so it's no problem. But you graduated with your bachelor's in, let me see, about 2000, somewhere around
1999, and started law school in August of 99.
So you went straight into it.
I went straight into it.
So you didn't take any time to go into the work field. Now, how was that transition from, like you said, you not having to burn the midnight oil to undergrad and then going to law school?
Oh, complete difference in the way that I studied. It feels like the way that I learned all the years of my life was completely different coming to law school. But I was kind of aware of that it was going to be different when you had to take the introductory test, like the LSAT, to even get admitted into law school. And I mean, even that thinking is, and to be able to answer those questions on the LSAT is just, it's so many different levels of logic and reasoning beyond what an ordinary person would think, or the way that an ordinary person would think or process information. So it changed my way of thinking, my way of learning in every way. There were certainly many nights of burning the midnight oil, as I alluded to earlier, that I didn't have to do with my undergraduate studies. But I mean, we had all the support that we needed, there in the law school. I can remember being there late nights at the library, but that wasn't uncommon. The library was packed. So it wasn't anything uncommon in law school.
Now, do you think that level of support would have varied had you not gone to a HBCU law school, or do you think?
I don't know, but what I can say is that my hope would be that, I mean, they would provide that level of support. I was introduced to some of the professors prior to coming on board and actually being a student there and admitted to the law school. And so I did have an introduction or some familiar with some of the professors. Prior to, as I mentioned, I volunteered, and that's where I did 2 years of my community service. That is a requirement here at NCCU, and I believe it is still a requirement today, 15 hours per semester to work to gain your community service hours. And I mean, I guess that supports part of the university's motto, which is truth and service. So that service aspect, they make sure that we get it in. But law school is completely different, a completely different way of learning, and I think impacted me for the rest of my life.
And do you think that also your, I guess, previous background in criminal justice also kind of helped that transition as well?
Maybe a small introduction into briefing cases, because that's what you do all the time. In every course in law school, there was briefing cases and being prepared to discuss those cases each class, and each day you showed up depending on which classes or courses you had that day. But that one course, his name was Joseph Soroka, in criminal justice, and God bless his soul. But he introduced us to briefing courses in the undergraduate level. So really thankful for that.
Gotcha. Now, did you have a specific type of law that you were more interested in than others, or?
Family law, I would say. Yep, it was family law. Kind of knew that, or at least just thought about a lot about children, many things around like guardian ad litems and things like that, when kids are going through the court system for various reasons and them needing to have representation for them. Just thinking about families going through separation, custody battles, and things of that nature was an interest of mine. And I think just thinking about a lot of our underserved population was truly where I wanted to serve and where I wanted to be, and representing minorities.
Absolutely. So you say you finished law school in 2002, right? It's 2002? Okay. So did you practice law after you graduated from law school, or what was your next step after you finished law school?
I did not practice law. I started working here, as I mentioned, as while I was in law school. I was a 2L or rising 2L. It was the summer before my second year in law school. And Irving Joyner was the chair of the advisory board here at WNCU. And the station was going through a transition at the time with staff. There wasn't that many staff persons here when I arrived. And it was like, we just need someone here, that's accountable and that we can trust and answer the phones and, take phone calls, get the calls to where they need to be. We need to start working to try to make sure we can get somebody in here to get us back on track with our accounts payables and receivables. And I was like, okay, great. I'm not doing anything for the summer and I'm here. I had an apartment in Cary, and I was like, well, I'm here, I'm not working, and that's perfect because I was just going to rest for the summer until I got ready to go back to school in August. And so I accepted a position in July of 2000. And I worked here part-time throughout my law school career. Yeah, part-time. And then, because I can't remember, my predecessor, Edith Thorpe, was the general manager. I think she came in about 2001 as the general manager, and she and I worked really well together. She was like, well, you've been kind of holding this stuff together with the accounts payables and receivables and kind of keeping that aspect of the station moving forward. And so she continued to keep me on part-time, and at some point in time I was brought on full-time to cover that work, and eventually I got the position, and this was before I graduated, I think, of being the business manager of the station. And I remember then there was some contemplation about if I would step out and go and pursue practicing. And then I was offered the position of assistant general manager, which was right underneath her. And yeah, I guess I reached a point in my life where I felt like, as far as purpose, and as I mentioned, wanting to be that family law attorney, of serving our community, serving the underserved and minorities. I was able to do that through radio. And I think feeling satisfied in that way, I ended up staying here, which eventually led to the opportunity came. I was acting GM for a while when Edith Thorpe left, and applied for the position permanently. I was offered the position, I accepted, and I've been here since. So I have been in this role as General Manager of WNCU for almost 14 years now. This September will be 14 years as the General Manager, not including the part-time and the full-time from being business manager to assistant general manager. But it's been a very long time.
And early congratulations on your anniversary in this position.
Yeah, soon coming for the anniversary.
Yeah, and it, like you said, with purpose, sometimes even though you went to law school, the traditional route after law school wouldn't be to go into radio. Of course, was there anyone who maybe questioned your decision to stay within radio after you were finished with your law degree?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it was questioned. My father wanted me to practice. It's probably because he funded my entire law school career. I didn't necessarily have to work, and so yeah, I would say that yeah, it's something that he probably is like, yeah, well, I thought you were going to practice law, but yeah, there's probably no one else that probably really looks at it and say, well, okay, you didn't practice law. Because, and I think that's just understanding that sometimes in life, we do take different paths. And it's not necessarily our intended path. Obviously, it wasn't even mine. And so sometimes that's the way that, you're dealt those cards in life. So here I am, but I still feel like as one of my purposes in life, that it's certainly being served, it's being met through working for this wonderful community station, public radio station that's licensed by North Carolina Central University.
Thank you. So I know you were a student here in the process of WNCU, debuting on the air. Can you tell me about what the, I guess, feedback or how receptive it was from either the student population? Did you know anything about the station when you were a student?
I had no clue about the station. The station went on the air and started broadcasting in August of '95, and so that was after. Well, no, that was me coming in. I had no clue that there was a radio station here. Probably the only reason that I came in this building was for some of my general education courses, but never connected or had any knowledge that there was a radio station.
So as the years went on, you still didn't know much about the radio station?
I learned about the radio station for the first time when I came here from being introduced to the general manager, Donald Baker, and I would be remiss if I don't mention his name, as well as being the pioneer and the founding general manager of WNCU. But he actually hired me, so I know I mentioned that Herb Joyner brought me over. He was the chair of the advisory board, but he made the introduction to Donald Baker, who was the general manager at the time. And yeah, he hired me that summer. And I know I mentioned something about there being a transition at the time, but yeah, and I think he hired me that summer of July, and he left the university in that September. So it wasn't long after I started working here that he was gone. But whenever I see him today, he really feels confident that he left it in good hands when he left. But who knew that I would, go from being the administrative assistant, business manager, assistant general manager, to now being in the role that and capacity that he once served this wonderful community. But here I am, and we have such a wonderful relationship. It's always great to see him. I know that you all interviewed him as well with this project, and so it's always great to see him. And just really thank him for the opportunity and introducing me to public radio, because as you have brought out through this discussion, I didn't know anything about WNCU prior to me having this opportunity to work at the station the summer of 2000. So.
And I know you said you had previous experience with your dad's business doing like administrative assistant work or clerical work. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't like a hard transition for you to come in and do some of that work for a radio station, or was it like a different from what you had been seen before when it came to being in that role?
I think it was a challenge of just really having to put my investigative skills to work. As I mentioned, it wasn't that many staff members left outside of On Air Talent, and then Mr. Baker was here until the end of September of 2000. But having to find out where to go on campus. So that was the difference, I think, as far as trying to translate or transition from working for my dad and doing that type of administrative work for him. But now it's like, okay, well, you have to do administrative work, but you have to go through some department on campus. And they have internal processes and procedures that you need to follow, maybe even different forms that you need to fill out for, this particular action. So I think that was a challenge and for me with trying to get acclimated with, okay, who do I call? And it was just a matter of, you just have to have a friendly voice and present a friendly face to people to try to solicit the help that you need to accomplish whatever goal it is that you're trying to obtain. So I think that it was, challenging in some way, new introduction with the different layers of trying to get work done. But we were able to get it done, and that's just my work ethic anyway. So we're going to get it done, and we're going to win. And we're going to learn from our failures so that we can do better next time.
So do you think your introduction to radio in that role kind of helped, shape your trajectory through you advancing at WNCU?
I would definitely have to agree. From looking at it from a business operation perspective, I knew from knowing from the ground up, what it takes to run the station, to then becoming the visionary of the station. I would certainly say that had a profound impact on me now being sitting in the role that I am now, but then being introduced the way that I was coming in with as an administrative assistant. Definitely had a profound impact. And I think that introduction of having to kind of investigate and find out how to do this and how to accomplish that, and then just the internal processes of the university and how that impacts the work that we do here at the station. It certainly had an impact on my work, and I think eventually my role now as the general manager.
Thank you. So what type of training did you have to undergo outside of that administrative assistant role in order for you to kind of get familiar with radio, since it wasn't your traditional background?
Really, probably attending some of the industry or the trade conferences, to learn some of the ways. I learned a lot from Edith Thorpe when she was here as the leader or as the general manager of the station during her time. Probably putting me in, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. You need to learn how to do this. And, okay, so she put me to the test or put me up to the challenge. And I mean, me being who I am, I'm going to do it. So I think with the conferences, doing some reading myself. I mean, as far as, understanding FCC rules and regulations to ensure that the station is in compliance. I did a lot of, sitting under the feet of many FCC attorneys that I've met along the way in the industry, and being able to pick up the phone and lean on them for work that we need to do. And that's even outside of the attorney that we have here in our state that handles most of our business for us in regards to filings and things of that nature. But just learning a lot and going to a lot of professional development conferences and trainings so that I could learn things on my own. And even here on campus, whatever trainings that they have on campus, I'm going, so that, I don't just send my administrative assistant. I go to those trainings as well, even if it's, maybe we have a new system to key requisitions. I'm going to that as well, just so that I can be exposed and kind of know the foundational work or whatever it is that's required, even if we are perhaps using a new application. Or as you mentioned, like, how did I really learn like this, like things about radio? It was, I think, definitely from people, connecting with colleagues, and being able to call on some of them, for their expertise. And like I said, going out there and getting the knowledge for myself.
So is that something that you kind of continue, that legacy of allowing students who may not have experience in radio to come in and learn the ins and outs of radio broadcasting?
Absolutely. I have an internship program that's going on now. I wrote a grant. It's for the next generation of broadcasting journalists. And that's why you may have met some of our students that are working here for the summer. We call them WNCU ambassadors. And they are working on digital content, whether it's audio or video production that they're working on. Some of them are creating brochures, flyers for us. I'm learning a lot from them as well. It was a young person that first exposed me to AI. It was a young person that first introduced me to Canva, where I can go in and create flyers, and how easy it is to do all of those things. So I'm really grateful, and I'm really excited, the impact that I'm having on the next generation. But I know that it is part of my legacy to ensure that I'm doing the work that I'm supposed to do to make sure that the next generation is prepared, because somebody has to replace me one day. Somebody has to replace every role that's here at WNCU, and I just want to make sure I've done my part to give back, and this wonderful opportunity that we have to be here on the campus of North Carolina Central University, and the opportunity to have access to these young minds and have that level of impact. I think that I could say that I'm content with being a part of that. And for the first time this year, we have started a WNCU scholarship, and we will have 5 students that will receive $1,000 scholarships, and we've committed to that for the next 5 years. So I'm excited about that, and just kind of breaking that barrier of being the first in leadership at WNCU to actually give out scholarships to our young people. And then, of course, these are paid internships that I mentioned for the WNCU ambassadors that are working this summer, where I can. We don't just like to offer it up and say, you get your course credit or you can get your community service hours. But because of the grant funding from North Carolina Local News Lab, we are able to fund these internship opportunities for the wonderful students that we have working with us this summer.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I know, paid internships are kind of hard to come by as a student. Yeah. So that means a lot. And like you said, it also speaks to you being a visionary behind the station. So as a general manager, if I wasn't familiar with what that meant for a radio station, can you kind of describe, some of your roles and duties in this position?
I am the leader and the visionary of a wonderful team, a small yet nimble team that we have here that presents quality programming. And I think that's part of what we're here to do is provide culturally diverse programming, realizing that we are serving a very diverse community. We're also here as an educational training facility for our students, mainly our priority, although we do serve other students and other majors, but mainly focusing on mass communication students. We have that concentration in broadcast journalism, and I believe the other is public relations. But we work very, very closely with the mass communication students and the department to try to make sure that we meet the needs for like their audio production courses, any of their video production courses, that we're connected and tied in with those students and providing those supplemental workshops and trainings and the opportunity for the students to work directly with us through the internship course, and that's where they would get the course credit for working with us. So
And that's something that I'm noticing is sometimes different based on the institution, where they will have a station for students and then it will have a complete different entity for like the university's radio station. So is there any type of connection that y'all try to like lessen that separation between like students coming in and working, or is there like a certain station they have to come through first in order for them to be able to be associated with WNCU?
that's preferred. We do have a student station. It's a closed cable network station. Also, they have they stream online, but it's called AudioNet Campus Access Radio, and so that's where students come in, and they're enrolled in probably the media practicum course in mass communication, and they get their slots for their shows. They come in, they do shows just like with any other talent, but there's a faculty member that gets course release time to actually oversee the student station. She and I may work and collaborate. I know that she also teaches 2 or 3 courses in mass communications as well, but we normally collaborate. We support that. So all of the equipment in that facility is provided by WNCU or through funding that comes through WNCU. And that's also where we go to we train students there. For those that are on air, we used to have the news team, and they would produce the news, or normally just rip and read, but they would pull down a story, say maybe off of AP, pull that story down, read it, on the AudioNet station. And then my news and public affairs director would assist in those efforts. And that was really where we could find our gems. And for those students that have a voice for radio, to recommend them to take the internship course and to come work with us so that they can, maybe exercise their talent and their skills a little bit more to be able to sharpen them. And prime example, Jahara Hayes is working with us. She graduated last December, and one of my program director went to a class to put on a workshop, and he talked with the students, and it's like, hey, if you're interested in learning more, about the work that I do, come see me, stop by and see me. And she was persistent, and she came to see him. He got her to record something, so we can listen to her voice, and he was like, I think she'll be great. I think she'll be great. And we had a couple of slots open, or maybe it was just one slot at the time for, I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Thursday nights. It may have just been Thursday nights. And so that's where she started out. Thursday nights, I'm doing a 2-hour jazz show. He programmed the music for her, and obviously giving her tips and all that kind of good stuff. And now her radio name is J Simone, and everybody knows J Simone. We just came back this past weekend from the Ocean City Jazz Festival in North Topsail Beach, and when I tell you, I'm just so excited. I'm like a proud mom, I think, looking at those opportunities where it's like everybody on the bus and even at the festival, it was J Simone, J Simone. I'm going to listen to your show. Like if they had never listened to her show before, I'm going to listen to your show. But then there were some who came from this area and traveled out to North Topsail Beach. And it was just exciting to hear them shouting her name and looking at her work in her element. So it was really great.
It speaks volumes for a station to have, the younger generation come in and be able to excel so much that the community is very receptive to their voice and their shows on the air, especially with a genre of music like jazz, where they feel like, young people don't know too much about jazz. And so that brings me to my next question. Being that this is predominantly jazz station, what types of jazz music, I know it can vary, do you find that is your niche here at this station, if you have one? Or is it like a variety of different types of jazz?
Our niche is definitely playing traditional straight ahead jazz. Mainstream jazz is what really flows well at the station. It has worked for us for some time, but recently, probably in the last almost 2 years, we've begun to mix in a little bit of R&B that kind of flows with jazz music, but like your traditional artists, it might be James Brown, Ray Charles, some Aretha Franklin, like that traditional. Where no matter really like your age, you've probably heard like that Aretha Franklin tune, or you've heard that Ray Charles tune, where it's like, oh, I know that. It's like old, but everybody knows it, right? So mixing in that style of music, as well as some smooth jazz. We do a lot of covers, like of other songs that some jazz artist has redone or something. So that brings that level of I would say familiarity with the music, but it's jazz. My goal for some time, because jazz music, people used to often, oh, it's jazz dying, it's radio dying, and I'm like, jazz is alive and well. And it will continue to be, as long as we have platforms like WNCU and other platforms that play jazz music. It will never die. It's really about preserving it right now, and just how wonderful, even like with you here, the preservation project that you're working on for HBCU radio stations as a whole. We just have to continue to do our work for this particular genre in preserving jazz music. And so to me, that's also upholding our jazz venues here that's still performing, or have jazz performances that's going on, and working together as a collective unit in this jazz industry. And it will continue to thrive, is my hope. And I would say too, our audience, we had a fairly mature audience for some time, but what we have seen with us expanding and making those slight programming changes in the last 2 years, it has, or maybe a little less than 2 years, we've seen a variation. Before, we were 65 plus. We're still majority 65 plus, but I think it's only about 50% now. But now we have more of a variation of really preparing ourselves for the future, because now we're expanding ourselves out to 35, to the 35 to 44, and to the 45 to the 55 range. So that looks good for us, as far as ensuring that we continue to be around for years to come, because we really have to be versatile in thinking about the diversity of the age of our demographics as well, to ensure that we're setting ourselves up for that long-term support that we typically get from our listeners.
Absolutely. And like you said, jazz is alive and well, but there is a way that you have to kind of appeal to younger generations so they can stay alive and well, because if you have that elder listenership, of course they go away and pass along, and you want to make sure that you still have people listening even after they are gone. So but I'm with you. I believe that jazz is alive and well. It's one of my favorite genres of music. So
yay!
Yeah, I'm very happy to see that, even though I guess maybe the students may not listen to it as much, it also speaks to the community aspect of the station that you want to serve, not just the institution that you're at, but the community in which the institution is located.
Yeah. Because, but for me, I can remember when I was the youngest person on the team, and just so happened to be the leader of the team. But my goal was to bring in a full reflection of our community. And I think we have that in the staff that we have now. from young to the young at heart. We have that here at WNCU. And again, I think that in order to produce programming for the community, then you should at least have a team of folks that look like the community that you serve.
Absolutely. And so that was going to be my next question. In the community that you serve, what would you say that looks like for someone who may not be from here?
I think that Durham has grown tremendously, but the level of, I think, diversity in culture and art from this tremendously diverse community that we now have transitioned or evolved into in our community. I think that we're headed in the right direction. And what I have learned about the current community that we reside in with our home here in the Bull City is that people like experiences, and we get to create that. We have partnered with Durham Central Park, which is right downtown in the heart of Durham, and with the Playlist Concert Series and the first Friday of every month. This is our 4th year. We kicked it off coming right out of the pandemic, and we weren't sure how many people were going to be there, if we were even going to be able to have this concert when we kicked it off 4 years ago. But we've continued to partner with them and put on, it's different genres. It's not just jazz music that we play. Last week, I think it was something very similar to like bluegrass with the Venezuelan artist and American artist. We kicked it off with a funk band in May. We'll end the season with Lady Ray, which is a hip hop artist, female artist, and that's what we'll close out the season with in October. But the first Friday of every month, creating that experience. We have our DJ on Friday nights, DJ Travis Scales. He hosts the Friday night mix, and that's from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. But during this concert series, he's down there like with his turntables out in the park. He does a 30-minute set. Then we bring on the artists for their performance for a 90-minute set. And then he gets 60 minutes, 1 hour of time back to him before we close out at 10 o'clock. And that's where we have the party line. So he plays whatever and you dance to whatever he plays. And it's just amazing. We used to say that it was very similar to the Soul Train line, where people get off to the side and then you work your way down the middle of the people. But I just... my heart flips every time that I even think about it now, with that level of impact of having this free concert in the park on the first Friday of every month. We have young people, there are little kids coming down the center. There's that very mature audience that, we've talked about, that's coming down the audience, and everybody in between. Families that are there. It's also pet friendly as well. So, folks may be there with their dogs, but that party line, it really seems like that's the best part of the evening. It's time for us to get ready to wind down and go home. But that 60 minutes of just music, it's line dance music or whatever, and it's all broadcasted live on WNCU. But it is such a wonderful time. And gosh, when I tell you, talking about my heart getting weak and just loving on my community, and I feel like, the Bull City and surrounding communities are loving back on WNCU. It's just such a wonderful moment and experience to be in. So when I speak of experiences, like when people see us, that's what they think about. Oh, yeah, I'm coming to the playlist. I'm coming to the Playlist Concert Series. So I think that's one of the wonderful partnerships that we've had with Durham Central Park with this Playlist Concert Series.
Yeah, and it kind of speaks to your ability to kind of adjust within a changing environment. Over the years too. So speaking of that changing environment, you already talked about some of the things that you do for the community, but how do you kind of appeal to a broader audience through WNCU's music that they play, or to not just be centrally focused on, say HBCU? Some people may think it's a radio station that only people of color may listen to.
Oh, well, I think in that regards, people just have to think about, just the principle of diversity. And it's not about, the race of a person or, the kind of music. Music is universal language. So, if you love music and if you have an open mind, and just think about, for me, having a good time, having some good entertainment, having a good storyteller, that when they back announce, they can help relate the music, to life. That's what it's about for me. And so it's not necessarily, even though we are licensed by an HBCU radio station, and we currently are serving a minority audience, but it's inclusive. This music is for everyone. It's not for a set race, a set gender, a set age. There's no limits, no boundaries on this music and this art form.
It's kind of like WNCU is for everybody.
It is, absolutely. We are certainly all inclusive, and we keep that in mind, even with our programming, where it's, it's not all focused on, because because we are an HBCU radio station, we just think about serving the community as a whole, and we're just grateful for those very rewarding opportunities when our city loves on us as a whole, and it's not because we are an HBCU radio station. It is because we have great programming and we are truly serving our community in the way that they really want to be served. We're providing that level of or cultural experience that they may not get anywhere else.
You took the words out of my mouth. Providing that experience to the community, which is what you said they like here in Durham. So thank you for that as well. But being that this is an HBCU radio station, how would you define Black radio in your own words?
And that's what I feel like, we create each and every day. In my role as the leader and visionary, I feel like, magic for me is hitting private donation and underwriting. I mean, obviously it's going to be from a business perspective, but hitting those goals and those numbers for our underwriting and for our private donations to the station, trying to grow different ways that, we can appeal to philanthropic donors, whether it be through planned giving, leave WNCU in your will or your trust, so that when I look at these young students that I can actually look out and see through this recording booth window. That's what I think about. Like, that's the future of WNCU. That's the future of Durham. That's out there at work right now. And they're out there creating content for WNCU social media platforms. But that's Black radio to me. It's magic. And it's something for everybody and not a select group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was speaking with Mr. Brett Chambers on yesterday, and one of the things that he kept mentioning was that I have money coming out of my check every, when he gets his checks as an investment. He doesn't think of it as like, it coming out. He thinks of it as him investing in WNCU and, like you said, the future generations of who's to come and to kind of take over this great station.
Absolutely. We won't be around forever,
Yeah.
Thing is for us is, to do our best in keeping the torch lit, but certainly we have to pass that torch on, and I want to be able to say that I did my part to help prepare that next generation.
Absolutely. And you spoke about you having a business mind when it comes to different things from your previous experience of how you came into WNCU, but before that you had a legal understanding of different things. How did you kind of incorporate those things into your career here at WNCU?
So great question, because I think when a lot of things comes across, the table, whether it's legal agreements or binding agreements, I may not necessarily interpret things the way that an ordinary person would. I am able to use my legal mind. I am able to understand legal jargon. So I'm not just sitting in the room. And even when we're communicating with our FCC attorneys or the general counsel here at the university, if it's looking at a North Carolina general statute, I mean, I understand it a little bit better than probably a regular lay person would. So I think that certainly has been advantageous to me as well. Obviously, everything still has, we have a process here at the university where everything still has to, if it's a legal agreement, it has to go through our general counsel's office here on campus. But just that level of kind of knowing and understanding outside of, somebody having to necessarily explain something to me, I'm able to kind of pick up on those things on my own based off of my training through law school. So.
Yeah, and even though you didn't practice, it's still like you put in those skills to practice within this realm. So everything kind of connects in one way or another.
Yeah, I think I had about 3 internships while I was in law school. So in one of them, I worked in the Wake County DA's office like for a summer. So that was, and we always had all these like the appellate court class. You had like these mock trials and all this kind of stuff. And of course, we studied case law every day. Regardless of what course you were in. So I certainly think that that is very advantageous for me with being able to have that level of understanding as it relates to the different legal jargon and legal practices.
And I know that you all kind of intertwine that legal aspect from NCCU into the format of WNCU as far as like with the Legal Eagle. How important is that to be able to have that be a part of your programming, even though it doesn't necessarily fall under the category of jazz?
Well, I think, even though we are predominantly a music station and predominantly jazz music during the week, but we still hold true to producing content that will serve our community in ways that we feel that there may not be programs that necessarily serve those particular topics or areas. And so we have programs like the Legal Eagle Review where Irving Joyner and April Dawson host every week. That is a 1 hour long show. We also have a program, Mastering Your Money, with Ed Fulbright. That show has been around probably almost as long as the station has been on the air, if not maybe a year after. And that show, Mastering Your Money, it just talks about like financial literacy and education, financial management and skills and things of that nature. And then we have the Measure of Everyday Life, and we have a corporate sponsor of that show. The host is Dr. Brian Southwell. He's a social scientist. And so the Measure of Everyday Life can go from, back when we had the pandemic, talking about the impact of the pandemic on young people, like for those that had to learn remotely, versus how is that impacted now? What are we, like 3 or 4 years forward? How did it impact those students? Like we're probably about reached that those students who would have been remote learning in high school and now they've graduated. How did that impact their academic experience, or did it not? So you may hear, a show around that topic, or, it may be a show around cybersecurity as well. And then, of course, Legal Eagle Review. I mean, there's so many things that, we can talk about from a legal perspective and how it impacts our community. Even now, during the times of, even though we remain nonpartisan in our discussions, but even now it's political season. There's just so much that's going on right now, so many things that are at stake. I imagine that Project 2025 will soon be a conversation on the Legal Eagle Review with all that's going on with that. So it'll be, it's very, and very interesting show, very informative, educational, and I think also necessary, because you don't find this type of alternative perspectives on topics around things like that. And like I said, I know that, I mean, Project 2025 is has just been introduced to America not that long ago. At least discussions around it has just been introduced in mainstream media. So I assume that they will likely be having a conversation around that soon, and I look forward to engaging and being a listener that evening.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I know some HBCU radio stations, or just radio stations in general, try not to get too much into the political talk, but it seems like that is something that, y'all bring to the forefront to speak about what's not only going on in the community, but what's going on in the world and how it in turn impacts that community. So I was just going to ask, but I think you kind of answered that question. What actions does a station take when something erupts and impacts a community? But you said there are programs like the Legal Eagle Review and Mastering Your Money and different things like that. But are there any other avenues that you all take to kind of serve the community and making them aware of what's going on and how it can impact them?
So we may, host. I mean, some people may call them fireside chats, and back during the early days, they were called like town halls and things of that nature. Where if there is some particular area or topic of discussion, like last year, or was it the beginning of this year? I can't recall exactly when it was, but we held a conversation around adoption and fostering, only because of learning information about the delay, not the delay, but the lack of participants wanting to become foster parents or adopt a child. And so we worked with the local agency here in the county to just put on this special conversation around foster parenting and adoption, so that maybe we can inform people. Sometimes if you don't hear it, if it's not in the forefront, I mean, a lot of times people may be wondering, or maybe even have challenges with, having a family or creating a family. And so these are easy options. It's not as difficult as you may think. And even with fostering, it's not like once you get this child, you have to keep the child if it's not working. And so I think being a platform and for distributing that type of information and some of the creating the connection, I think too that maybe some of these kids who don't have the homes that they deserve maybe have an opportunity through our conversations on WNCU to actually get a home and be fostered.
Yeah, that's beautiful. When I was going through some of the CDs and tapes, I did notice that some of the topics that would be brought up, some of the segments were centered around like health concerns and how to I never listened to it, but I can imagine that it's discussing how those health concerns can in turn impact the community that it's serving, and probably giving them some alternatives on what they can do to, not always fall victim to some of the things that are kind of put up against us. So
Yep.
it's good to know.
So that's definitely true. I mean, and a lot of times, I mean, like during it may be what is it? Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We may produce like some some vignettes or something that's around breast cancer awareness, or if it's prostate cancer, something that's around awareness about black the minority community and or black community, learning more about taking care of your health, like what can you do in advance before like actually maybe having to discover. Maybe it's the symptoms. Do you have certain symptoms of prostate cancer or breast cancer, or I mean, I know we've done so many even around high blood pressure, especially when COVID was around, when we were hit with the pandemic. And I can't remember, we were hit with something else after COVID. Gosh, I can't think of what it was. Was it monkeypox? Mm-hmm. But they call it something else now, but that was the old name of it. But I remember there was an increase in that as well, and we partnered with some of our local nonprofit entities to get that messaging out as well, and especially for our communities of color.
And it also probably makes those community entities feel supported by the radio station here at WNCU, so it just kind of connects, community assets to community radio. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that. Now, you mentioned that the institution's motto is truth and service. How would you find that that intersects with WNCU's mission and motto, if you have a motto?
So, WNCU is a public service of North Carolina Central University. And to me, that means us taking on and truly serving the public interest in our programming, whether it's informational, educational, cultural focus. That is our goal, is to serve the interests of our community, and through the service of this radio station. And even now we have a digital content department here. So I mean, it's not just on the radio that we're telling our story. We're telling our story on the digital platform as well. And to me, that's just trying to maintain and keep up and be relevant. And for people to be able to become aware of the work that we're doing and the quality programming that we're creating at WNCU. And the truth aspect of it, to me, is really just upholding our journalistic integrity, and offering up information that we only know to be true, and to hold ourselves as a truth outlet and platform, so that people know, when you listen to us, you're getting the organic, raw truth about whatever it is that we're offering through our programming. Whether it's the music, we're going to give you that authentic, whatever it is, about music. And we have announcers that just have the ability to relay back to the music, to just tell a story in a way where you're just kind of stuck in that moment. And so yeah, that's what I hope that the work that we do and how it has an impact, or how it translates to the motto of the university, which is truth and service, is that we are true in all that we do and authentic, and again, all about providing the public things that they're interested in. We're kind of like a public trust, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And I'm pretty sure that with you being a two-time alum, that's something that's embedded in you, truth and service. So being that, this is a HBCU, there are many around the country. What do you think makes this particular institution, North Carolina Central University, special?
I would say having leadership that really cares about our students. Our students are first here at NCCU, which, to me, even though it was many years ago when I was a student here on this campus as an undergraduate, that feeling, or at least I hope this is the experience that our students are having today, is feeling like you're at home, like home away from home, being able to cultivate those relationships with mentors. So like, for me, I really, at one point in time, I felt like at my age, I was like, okay, well, they kind of feel like they're perhaps my siblings. And then the next level is, your auntie, right? But now I feel like I'm at an age where I'm like, I'm mother. I am mother, or at least that's the age, and certainly some of these, at the age that they are, I could be their mother, even though my children are much younger. But I taking on that nurturing role, and it not just, in mentoring role, where it's not just, I guess open-ended type, relationship. Students come in sometimes just to say hi, not because they're there to work, and that's because of the relationships that we have developed with our students. And so that's always great, to have the students, well, they're not students anymore, but when they graduate, but then to have them to come back as alum, and to stop by the station, and to say hello, and to see what they're doing now. That is some of the most rewarding opportunities, I think, or experiences that I've had being here It's just really connecting with these young people, bright minds, encouraging them when they feel like they can't make it or if they feel like something is getting them down. And that seems to happen a lot today. I mean, I know that people in general are going through stuff, but to have just being here in this role, it allows me that opportunity just to keep encouraging them and to tell them, like, not to get down. Some of them may be going through, situations, it just trying to maintain being a working student sometimes. And I'm like, baby, listen, this is only just a temporary, stumbling block. You're going to get through this. You're going to figure this out. And, by the time you finish with a conversation, they're leaving, going out the door, where even though the issue or the challenge may not have been resolved immediately, but you've given them like that push and that bolt of just knowing that it's going to be okay, tomorrow. And, yeah, it's, that's truly a blessing, for me to be able to connect with them and just impart, some positiveness, sometimes in their cloudy situations. So
That's good. And that's beautiful to have somebody, like you said, it kind of speaks to that family aspect that you said you felt whenever you came in. So you're providing that for students. Maybe if they don't first come in, at least when they're here, they can still feel like there's people here who care about not only their education, but their well-being while they're matriculating. So how do you kind of balance that? You say you are a mother, and you're married, I'm sure. So how do you kind of balance being a nurturer here on campus to students and then also kind of saving some of that nurturing for your kids as well?
God, it's a difficult balance sometimes, and but my kids, we have raised them to openly communicate, in our home, and my husband and I, and yeah, just recently my son was, so today he said, "Mom, what time are you coming home today?" And I already knew because I could hear it in his voice, and I said, "I'm coming home early today, son. I'm not working late." Last night I was in here kind of late. I won't say what time it was, but I was here a bit late. I'm working, getting some things done, and so yeah, I'll be out of here today, because we're gonna go swimming today. So
Yeah, you'll not be under the heat of the day. It'll be like right when the sun is going down a little bit. So in that water, it feel real cool too.
And I have to go spend the time and put the time in with the kids. And I mean, they're very much involved. They understand my work. They think it's fun. They think everything about my job is fun. Especially when we have the festivals or the concerts or something like that. Is mommy's job is fun. Mommy's like, well, yes, we do have fun, but we're very serious about the work that we do as well. But we sure definitely try to have fun while we're working also. But they're very excited about what mommy does. But if mommy's working late, a lot, then they openly share, yeah, mommy, are you coming home tonight? Are you coming home early tonight? And then sometimes I'm not always here working in the office. It may be an event or something, that's happening, after hours, after work. And, so going to that event to make connections, sometimes just to have my, face in the place, to connect with other community institutions. So.
And I think sometimes with kids, their minds may be so wired around fun that's what they see, but don't understand the hard work that it takes to get to the fun part. So pretty sure as they get older, they'll start to realize like why you are putting so much work in, not only for them but also for the community in which they are a part of. So it speaks volumes. I know, like you say, children don't really understand at first.
Just yet. They're 8 and 12. So
okay. So they'll start to be more understanding once they get older. So you mentioned how this HBCU community is special, but what is it about WNCU that you find is important to you?
I would say that it is the way that we have the ability to pull together the programming with the diverse talent that we have, to truly serve and impact our community and our listeners. I mean, of course, you have some who, I mean, they may love the afternoon jazz person. They may love the morning jazz person. They may love our weekend gospel team. But all of it is unique. But at the end of the day, we're all one. And that's WNCU. And each and every day and every time we open that mic, knowing that everybody's putting their best foot forward, I think that's what it is for me.
And do you find that WNCU competes for listenership compared to like the other maybe commercial stations in the Durham area, whether it be for jazz, other jazz stations, or is there even another jazz station in the Durham area?
Not another jazz station that I would say that we compete with. I think there are some other smaller stations that have different jazz segments, but not to the level of what we offer. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we compete with them, but certainly we have the powerhouse commercial stations in our market, but they play other genres of music. And even in regards to public radio stations here, the other public radio station here plays news talk predominantly. And so there's really not a competition in regards to our format and what we play predominantly here with any of the stations. And so I think that we've kind of found our niche, and here we are.
And you're still here, so that speaks volumes as well.
30 years. 30 years next year.
Well, again, early congratulations on the anniversary as well. So what type of opportunities do you believe that HBCU radios like WNCU afford Black hosts and employees that maybe commercial radio stations may, not afford them?
Well, I've never worked at a commercial station. I've known several people that have. But I think we have the flexibility of determining, programs that we offer, topics of discussions or conversations that we may have on the radio station, because most commercial music stations, it's their programming is kind of controlled by a main or maybe a parent program director that kind of sends it out. It's like, well, this region, you're going to play this music, you're going to play that music. And here we play all kinds of music. I mean, we play the classic music. We play like the new releases. Like we have a music director that goes through and listens to the new jazz music that's coming out and makes sure that music is updated. Like we're playing the top 50 jazz songs because we're very connected with the reporting for the weekly jazz report to see like which artist is in the top 50 and things of that nature, to make sure that we're making sure that we create the balance of the new music, the classic music as well. And then, of course, especially like mixing in those covers. I mentioned that we do play some of the classic like R&B and soul music as well that's mixed in. But, you take someone like Maceo Parker. I mean, he played saxophone for James Brown. So in some of those James Brown songs, Maceo Parker's on horns. So you pick him up, with now listening to jazz music, so because he created jazz music as well. So it's just amazing how through the programming department they are able, and the music director, they're able to tie in that music that make it really kind of transcend and blend, where you're like, wow, that was a great transition, even though it may have been R&B or say maybe even an R&B cover. But they were able to mix that in with the jazz music and make such a smooth transition.
And being that you are a general manager, I know you talked about like music production and them, intertwining that too. How do you feel like, or how do you believe you've left the imprint here at WNCU throughout your time here?
Oh, I certainly hope so. We've seen historical numbers in our private contributions to the station, historical numbers than the station has ever seen in regards to grant funding. As I mentioned, this new WNCU scholarship, that has never been done before. But that's certainly, I hope, part of my legacy, and really supporting and giving back and preparing the next generation. As we like to always say, we're helping prepare the next gen. I think that's part of that effort as well. And having these paid internship opportunities, and this is, I think, our second year with having paid internship opportunities for our students. And that was funding that all came from a grant that I wrote to be able to afford our students the opportunity for paid internships.
Did you find that was difficult for you to be able to implement?
It wasn't. The most difficult part is, well, of course, taking that time to write the grant, hoping, praying, fingers crossed, feet crossed, whatever, crossed to hope that you get the funding. And then, of course, that implementation of it, trying to get the pieces in place once you receive the funding to really be able to pull it off and to make it happen. But yeah, we either hire people, contractors, or temporary people that maybe they're doing some freelance work to come in and to help out. But it's really been great having folks like Jahara here working with students, and now they're helping her gather content for the social media platforms. They created like those reels, the different reels where there's I can't remember what it's called.
Instagram reels,
Right,
TikToks.
right, all of that. Mm-hmm. But normally there's like a skit, and then like you'll see a whole lot of people doing this same skit. But even having that level of fun, and I think it's something that really speaks and transcends to, the younger demographic that we're trying to reach, but at the same time, even a more mature audience. And like, even I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that is a little funny. I get you. Like, all right, I can, there's a little bit of humor behind that. You just have to have an open mind and an open heart, and laughter is good for the soul. It's good for everybody. So it's really been exciting watching them tell our story from the radio station through the digital platforms also. So
absolutely. Now, do you find that with that, the differences that we're going through with technology, that HBCU radio has changed throughout your duration here in any way?
Absolutely. These the social media platforms, I think that it allows us to share and reach more people than we can even through the radio station. You may have only your select core group, but thinking about the digital marketing or ad campaigns that we've been able to engage in, again, reaching people everywhere, because you can select your target audience and the demographics of whatever their location may be. That's worked. That's been just super amazing for me, and really just, eye-opening when you think about, wow, like you think you're reaching thousands and thousands and thousands of people, here through the radio. But what we realize is that a lot of people want to know. It's not radio as it was back in the day when, it was people got in the radio because they didn't want to be on television, but so they can be behind the microphone, but you never saw them. You only knew that person when they spoke, and you're like, oh, I know you, you're the morning jazz host. But today, now we're mixing video. So getting back to even having this digital producer, and now having these WNCU student ambassadors working with her, but now they go into the studio and now they create videos and content behind our talent, and then that's on the website. When we're out at events, like at the festival or the concerts that we're involved with, they're putting content there immediately in the moment. They come back and they do recaps, of, hey, this is where WNCU was in this moment. And so to me, it just all goes back to the experience, and more so today, moving forward from radio years ago, people now want to see the on-air talent. They want to, gosh, I connect with you so much, and you're no longer a mystery to me. And like I said, I think they just really want to feel that experience in a way beyond of just listening to a radio. Wherein today, And then we have the ability to listen to radio anywhere you are. Like we have the WNCU mobile app, and we've had listeners traveling on vacation in Dominican Republic, and they send us pictures with a picture of their feet and the beach. And it says, "I'm here listening to my favorite station, WNCU." And back in the day, I mean, we didn't have that ability, to listen to the radio. We didn't have the mobile apps. You just had to have a station where you had a radio where you could tune in and listen through the radio. But now, as we like to say, download the mobile app and take us wherever you are. And that's what folks are doing.
And it's a good thing that they can never be too far away if they want to listen. So instead of having to be in that proximal area where you're able to catch
in your coverage area. Exactly. So I think that for me is how the radio has truly evolved, even beyond all of this. I mean, and using YouTube, we did a cook show during the pandemic because it was like, well, what is it that we can do and what is different? It came to me one night and I was like, I'm calling this chef that I know. It's female owned, minority owned. I'm giving them a call, see if they want to do a cooking show. Had some grant funding to cover that for us, and we found the location, and I think we did a total of 7 or 8 episodes of that cook show, and it was that was amazing and something different for radio. But we had a full camera team in there. They had the boom mics dropped in the kitchen, so we broadcasted it on the radio, so you felt like you were there with them, and when you could hear the piece of meat when it hit the hot frying pan, and to be able to hear all of that through radio. And then we also used YouTube at the same time, when we were live on YouTube as well, and so the chefs were logged in and able to answer questions if people had while they were listening as well. So just using all the different platforms.
Seems like you're able to adjust to, even though it was like a environment and worldly catastrophe, you were finding ways that you can still continue with the station, even though you may not have been physically here at the station. Or was that something that y'all just still continue to do even throughout the pandemic? Is still be here? We
were still here.
Okay.
It was the talent came in and out, and they were the only people that were kind of interchanging. We had a check-in process, where they had to check their temperature and log down what their temperature was when they came in, answer a series of questions. And that was something that was implemented by our university. And I was just really grateful to have that level of support in regards to the, just the wellness aspect of trying to keep everybody safe with this very strange time that we were enduring. But we kept the wipes. I mean, it was so crazy. I remember I was spending nights looking on Amazon to see if I could get Clorox wipes and all the well, we didn't use Lysol, but we just used the wipes and the mic covers that we were buying, and gloves so that people could interchange things, and trying to get hand sanitizer. And then the university, they started providing all of those items for us. But it was just absolute amazing support. I mean, putting signs throughout the floor. I was just looking at some things the other day where we had the 6 feet distancing things down the hallway, and oh my God, what a very interesting time that we were in. But my team, my on-air talent, stayed true to coming into the station. The duty was to wipe down when you came in, and wipe down with the disinfectant wipes before you left. To put on your new cover and to take your cover off of your microphone when you left. It was a very interesting time, but we made it through, and with a very dedicated and talented team indeed.
Now, are there any challenges that you can say you've experienced while, your trajectory here at the station, especially being a general manager?
We need more money. And I don't know, probably anybody would ask that, or I mean, certainly as far as with resources, I say more money because, certainly I'd like to grow. I feel like there's always room for growth. I feel like there's always room, for improvement. I think that in regards to growing our team, I mean, we certainly need resources to help expand our team as well. And having some core positions here that currently don't even exist. Some that do. We have a vacant position that needs to be filled, and well, actually two, because one of my news director retired. So that position has to be filled, and my development director position has to be filled as well. And with that comes the challenge of having competitive salaries as well, especially considering this current market. And so, really just trying to work things out where maybe we can get those salaries increased a little bit more, so that we really can get a good person in that slot that really can work and give us what we need.
And so you mentioned some people as far as like your mentors. You said Miss Edith Thorpe, which we had the pleasure of interviewing for this project previously, Irvin Joyner and Mr. Donald Baker. How important is mentorship to WNCU?
Oh my goodness. I would certainly say that, training our students, providing the professional networking opportunities, the practical training opportunities, and that level of mentorship, it is at the very top of the core of the work that we do. Truly, we serve the community at large through our programming, but as I mentioned earlier on, part of our objective is to also serve our students and prepare the next generation of journalists and broadcasters. And so I think mentorship is certainly the gateway for all of that happening. And you create, relationships with young minds. And again, I mean, for me to now be at a point where I've had the opportunity to have that experience of feeling like a proud mother of, a young person or a young adult, that's not my biological child, and to think like, wow, yeah, I'm proud of you, baby. Or, when they call and say, can you write me a letter of reference, and, I'm applying for this, and then they, write you back and say, I got the job. And I'm like, okay, dinner's on you. Dinner's on you the next time we link up. So, but yeah, mentorship is at the top of the work that we do. And again, there would be no NCCU or WNCU even without our students. And so I think that they should always remain a priority and at the forefront of the work that we do.
And for those future broadcasters or students who have interest in being in broadcasting, what type of advice or knowledge would you pass on to them?
I would tell them to get busy, connecting with, if it's radio that you're interested in, television that you're interested in, or digital media that you're interested in. Get engaged with it now. Start doing the work as soon as possible. Sometimes we're not getting students until, our junior and senior year. But, if you're in high school and they have some type of, audio production or journalism course, get involved with those courses at that time. So by the time you come to college and you're a freshman and you come and talk to somebody like a Lackisha Freeman, and you're like, well, I think I want to host a news show. I think I want to create a podcast, or whatever it may be. Connect with people that can provide you that type of professional guidance that you really need. And sometimes you may decide that that's not even what you really want to do, but you don't know it. You don't know that yet until you've actually been exposed to it. So my advice would be to get involved, get engaged early. Even when you come onto the campus, when you come to North Carolina Central University and you are walking on the verdant green here, make your way to WNCU. Make your way to the NCCU television studio if that's what you so desire to do, so that you can begin the work. Again, you don't know about it until you're actually, working in that department and creating whatever type of production it is. Sometimes students think, oh, I want to have a radio show. Well, guess what? You can't just talk off top of your head. What are your writing skills like? You have to have copy, and things are scripted, even like here today, I mean, you're interviewing me, but you've done your investigative work prior to even engaging in this conversation with me. So understanding the processes, that it's not just a matter of this is what I want to do, bright idea, I think that's what I want to be, but there's a process behind everything that we do, and then there's the business aspect behind everything that we do.
Absolutely. Now, being that this is the HBCU Radio Preservation Project, why do you think it's important for initiatives like this project to exist when it comes to stations like WNCU?
I definitely think that it's important. I mean, honestly, thinking about stations like WNCU and perhaps others, I don't know if this is something that we would have ever worked through with being able to capture, these these interviews like you all are conducting, through the storytelling aspect about things at the station, to have some of our content from back in the 90s and the early 2000s, that's on the mini discs and the DATs and all that type of material, even some things that are on CD as well. I saw a commencement, I think, from 2003 where Michael Eric Dyson was the keynote speaker of the commencement here at NCCU, but it was here in our files. And I don't know if we would have an opportunity to take this type of information, to have it deposited, in a central place, and, hopefully one day end up, at the Library of Congress or something. Like, we would not have had that opportunity, and likely not have the funding to be able to kind of mobilize all of that as well. So it's been a wonderful thing for us here at WNCU to even be a part of this opportunity, to have the collection and to have our archivist, Andre Van, here as enthusiastic about this, as we were, to actually be a part of this overall HBCU preservation project. So it's been tremendous, like I said, help for us in preserving our heritage and our legacy in ways that we probably otherwise would not have been able to be successful in doing.
Absolutely, and I can definitely attest to say that for the 2 times that we have been here on behalf of the project, y'all have been very warm and welcoming and kind of open to what it is that this project is able to do, not only for the HBCU radio community, but WNCU in particular. So just want to personally thank you for the opportunity.
Indeed, thank you.
Of course. Now, when it comes to the future of radio, being that, you mentioned podcasting and then there's that culture of streaming, how do you feel that, or what direction do you feel that the future of radio is going in? And are you content with those advancements that are kind of intersecting with traditional radio?
I think that radio will be around for years to come. I think the current challenge for radio stations right now, and maybe there's been a bit of a delay in this happening, but really trying to capture that younger audience and cater and cultivate to the younger audience in a way such that, well, we don't want to be offensive either to our core audience, which is a bit more mature, but being able to kind of create balance, if you will. And I think that's just the difficulty, and we'll only over time be able to kind of work our way into that sweet spot. I don't think we're there yet, and it's not just for public radio stations like WNCU, but throughout the country, throughout conversations that I have been on, national conversations that I have been on calls and been a part of. That seems to be the revolving question right now, which is thinking about the audience and where is it going. But we need to think about public radio not in the traditional way that we've been thinking about it in years past. And who knows, using this different levels of technology that we've talked about, whether it's a podcast. I mean, all podcasts don't have to be broadcasted on the radio station. They all don't have to air on the radio station or have a spot on the radio station. If you have a website, then they can go there. There are different ways that you can share them out. Use your YouTube channel, using your social media platforms to promote all of these things that we've talked about. I think creating experiences, again, for the younger community, as well as the older community, because or the more mature community, I like to say, instead of older community. But I think it's about creating those memorable experience for people, and I just think that that's the way of the community now, and not just kind of trying to drill down to an age demographic, a gender demographic, or a race demographic. It's about creating a holistic experience for people so that they can get it on the radio. They can get it, wherever they are, if it's the mobile app, or if they see that we're involved in something when they're, up late or whatever it is on the weekends and on their social media platforms. It's like, oh, I know what's going on. WNCU is my go-to place if there's what community events are going on. So we have our jazz calendar, and people can check out the jazz calendar to see what's going on. And I think it's continuing to be relevant. And what relevancy looks like today, it has changed, certainly from what it was years ago, and so I think it's going to take time. It's probably going to take research as well for us to really be able to kind of put our hands around what that means. But the main focus for me is localism, because we would not exist but not for this local community. And so I think when you love back on your local community the way that they love on you, then we can truly make it together, and we can make moves, we can make ways, in ways that we have not been able to do prior to. So I definitely think that there's a shift that's occurring, but radio is not dead. I don't believe it's dying. I believe that we just have to expand in all of these different platforms that I've talked about, with making sure. So my digital content person is in the room with almost everything that I'm talking about, because she needs to know so that she can then tell that story. Anything that's on the radio, she needs to know about. If it's a ticket giveaway, she needs to know about it, because now we want to direct these people from our digital platform to tune in and listen to the station for your opportunity to win a ticket.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, most people, they want those free tickets to the concerts. And even though we kind of feel like we're straying away from, some people may think that with the younger generation, with streaming, the concerts that they want to go to are being broadcasted on radio. So it's like you have to listen in order to be able to have opportunity to win some of the things that you want to go to. So.
Yeah. So we're trying.
Yeah.
We're striving.
And it seems like you're doing a good job at that too, trying to incorporate the newer generation within radio and finding the different avenues where it can be like a happy medium, where you can kind of connect those two different spectrums into the spectrum together to kind of broadcast it to the overall masses. So
that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we continue to wrap up this interview, you mentioned a few names, like I stated, Edith Thorpe, Irvin Joyner, and Mr. Donald Baker. Is there anyone else or anything else that was not mentioned in this interview that you want to mention or shout out at this time?
Yeah, I want to shout out my parents. I want to shout out my husband, my kids. Because without their support and understanding, because it takes a lot being in this role, and I handle a lot of different tasks, a lot of different events. I am a person, I strive for to be successful in what I do, and a lot of times it may be many hours put into this work. And I think having an understanding spouse, and my mother lives with us, and she's been such a gem in regards and blessing to us, to be there. Sometimes I don't have to worry about dinner, because my mother has already prepared a very delicious meal for my children to partake in, and for me to partake in later when I arrive home. And so picking my kids up from school, to be there, and as we alluded to earlier, you want to talk about having a village. My mom is all of that, and so much more for us, for me, for my family. I'm so grateful for Nana. I'm really grateful for that support. But like I said, definitely my parents, my husband, and my children, which means so much to me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I'm sure when they get the chance to listen back to that, they'll understand how pivotal they are in this process for you to be able to give back to your community as well as to WNCU as the general manager. And I also want to again congratulate WNCU on 29 years of being on the air, and you again for your 14 years of being a general manager outside of all the other time you put in here at WNCU.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and looking forward to all of this, really coming together and having an opportunity to listen to all of the great stories that you all have collected.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
And thank you.